Today we're out here with the Suburban again, and it looks like one of my sway bar end links broke off. Of course, I went to the dealership and they wanted $300 for the repair. So how about we take a couple hours on a Saturday afternoon and I'll show you how you can quickly get these sway bar links out and back in.
So let's get this car off the ground. What I've done is I choked off the back wheels, so that's good. And I'm on a slight decline, so that's really safe. With these cars, you just want to make sure you just get right in the middle of the cross member, good point to jack up. And also, let's try to make this quick today, because I got stuff that I want to do on a Saturday that doesn't involve being under this car. And I'm pretty confident that once we get this car up, you can pretty quickly see what our issue is. So we got the car up on stands here. So just a couple of things that I wanted to mention was, never jacked up the Suburban before, and I noticed there is this plastic skid plate here. So I didn't want to take that off. I wanted to see where I could find cross member, and so I just jacked her up right by the A-arm here. Found a little block of wood and then just centered it right in the middle, so this way I don't damage the plastic underneath. And then from there, just take a couple of jack stands as a safety precaution, right onto that cross member, strongest part of the front of the car. So let's see. Here's our sway bar end link, and looks like it is pretty decent, but if you look under here, I don't have a bolt. Looks like it popped off, and that's understandable. With these trucks, you get a lot of shear forces, especially if you take a turn very quickly, and so the sway bar links tend to be the weakest part of the suspension. And although I've never seen one snap, apparently they do. So here, without a bolt, the easiest way to go about it would be this way. So as you can see, I turned the wheel a little bit in order for us to be able to get this dandy little component in there, which I'm going to use to be able to cut that end link right there. And so that's a little test run before I started the video. I tried to see whether or not I would have enough room, and sure enough, that happened. So there's no bolt there to begin with, which would explain a lot. So what we're going to do is just maybe jiggle this a little bit, as these things tend to get really stuck on. So go get yourself maybe a little screwdriver, and if the screwdriver doesn't work, maybe a little hammer on the side of that. See, these have little grooves that fit inside the sway bar. So what tends to happen over time, this oxidizes, rust gets in there, and it jams itself, which is what it's designed to do in order to be able to create a really unified joint here. So your sway bar will work. All right, there we go. Alright, so now this is what we have here. Here's the new piece. So this installs pretty straightforwardly. A couple of things to remember. First of all, you definitely want to get an exciting color around here. Bright red, perfect. So this way everybody can see that you had to change your links a lot earlier than you thought. Secondly, is that nowadays, it seems that these sway bars come with a lot better bushings. So these bushings are definitely not your standard rubber. You want to make sure that you don't get your standard rubber here. Get the highest quality you can get, as sway bar end links really make a big difference in the performance of your vehicle around turns. So let's just fit this in. So you've got to figure that once you put this in once, you're not going to put it in again. So don't bother with any anti-seize or anything like that. You're better off just replacing the whole thing. Don't even bother trying to reuse it. This component's important here. Idea is that it prevents oxidation. Not sure how well that works, but that's the theory anyway. So as you can see, there's a little bit of a snag here, only because the sway bar twists when you jack the car up, right? So ideally, what we're going to try to do is fit this in here first and see if we can snug it down. right. That usually happens, but that's okay. Let's try it this way. It's there. There. Let's try to use this. Shove it up. Okay. So that took a lot longer than I wanted it to. Here's a few things you have to remember. First of all, this is deflecting. So it's never as easy as just taking out the end links and putting them back in. Secondly, with this type of design, the one thing you can't do is just put in the biscuits and then slide the nut through. So after a lot of wrangling trying to fit this centerpiece in, the way to do this as effectively as possible is you fit this bottom part, you fit the sleeve. Then from there, you take this bolt with your bushing, slide it all the way in, put this bushing on there, and slide the bolt all the way to the very top, but not poking through. And what this allows is to keep this as one unit. And then you try to use one hand to wrangle this up as you're pushing this into the side. And you'll know that they're seated because these bushings, and I can use the old ones as an example, they have, see that little edge on there, that little ridge? That seats right into your control arm and your sway bar. And what that does is it allows it to keep it in place when you're installing it, and allows it to really seat itself as it starts to wear down. And another tip here is we're not going to tighten this all the way just yet. We tightened it finger tightly. And the reason why is that you want to be able to preload this before you finish tightening it. And if you tighten it all the way now, what's going to happen is you're going to have excessive torque on there when the car comes down, and the shear forces could split it again. So we're going to wait to tighten that, and we're going to move on to the other side. Instead of unscrewing it, since these are going to break anyway, use a Sawzall or some equivalent with a metal cutting blade, and we're going to cut right in the center here. Okay, right there. Let's do it. Alright, so here's your finished product. Got the car down. It's on level ground now. And so you can see that we haven't tightened it all the way. We did a nice finger tight. So what I'm going to do is quickly going to take an air wrench, get to the bottom, and then on top I'm going to grab it just with a pair of pliers. And then give it a little zip until we're snug and we can see that there isn't much of a gap at all between where all of the biscuits sit and where the A-arm as well as the sway bar are.
that's all she wrote.
So there we go. About 2 hours in, and I was able to save about $270. Now, it took a little bit longer than I expected, especially trying to wedge those biscuits in there. But these are the sorts of things that happen, and it's a good learning experience.